Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video we are going to be going over the top 25 best first cars for less than 5k. I want to say, I don't know why I don't have this open on my computer yet. Yeah, top 25 best first cars for less than $5,000. Now obviously this is a car channel, so if you're just a regular old average Joe trying to get to your school or whatever it may be, or college, you could be 45 years old and it's your first car, whatever it may be, but you don't care about like having a cool car, this video is not for you. These videos are for people that are car guys but also need something that's, you know, gonna get the job done. And so it's a mixture of reliability but also coolness, if that makes any sense. Also, song of the day, I was so unprepared for this, so let me find it real quick, because it's by Gunna, I know that, but I can't remember the name of the actual song. So give me 1 millisecond here. I am the worst YouTuber of all time. It is called Him All Along by Gunna. Banger, banger, banger. There was something knocking out the door the other day. I was like, oh, who could that be? Open the door, it's this song. It was banging on the door that hard because of how much of a banger this song is. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it with number 25. And all these cars are less than $5,000, but some of them are even like less than $3 grand. So if you're really on a budget, some of these are even for you as well. Ooh, this one hurts a little bit, because coming in at the number 25 spot, it's Mitsubishi 3000 GT. And the reason why it's all the way here at the 25 spot is simple. It's not that reliable, unfortunately. They do tend to have some reliability issues, but in terms of cool points, hey, they're there. They're really there. They come with a 3-liter V6 making 170 horsepower in their front-wheel drive, and that's also kind of the reason why I put it on this list. It's a front-wheel drive car with only 170 horsepower, so therefore it's going to be pretty safe too. You don't really got to worry about crashing this thing. The only real problem with this car is, of course, the reliability, which is why I put it at the 25 spot. Cool points are great, you know, in terms of like drivability, that's great, but just unfortunately the reliability is just not all there. Coming in at the number 24 spot is kind of the opposite of the 3000 GT. It's the Volvo 240. The Volvo 240 is very reliable. These things are like commonly regarded as tanks because they can just take every single possible thing that you could possibly throw at it perfectly fine. But they're, in my opinion, not the biggest looker. I don't think you're going to get a lot of broken necks with this car. They come with a 2.3-liter inline-4 making 114 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. I know the rear-wheel drive part kind of scares you if you live up north, and yeah, maybe you might want to stay away from this car, but it's only got 114 horsepower. Throw some winter tires on that bad boy, and you should be okay. Coming in at the number 23 spot, however, is going to the Chevy Camaro 4th generation. Why the 4th generation? Because it's like the only V8 powered Camaro you can find under 5k nowadays, and it's still going to be pretty hard to find a V8 one under 5k that's actually worth it. They come with a 5.7-liter V8 making 310 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. That's obviously pretty good, you know, a 300 horsepower rear-wheel drive car. Scary for a first-time driver, I mean, be careful. But the problem is these things are just not, they're hard to find in decent enough condition under 5k, unfortunately. Alright, did I say cars? Well, I meant vehicles in general, because number 22 is going to the Toyota 4Runner 3rd generation, the late 90s 4Runners. 4Runners have, I mean, dude, these things are just incredible cars, no matter what point of your life you're in. They come with a 4.7-liter V6 making 235 horsepower, and they are 4x4s. I mean, there's literally nothing wrong with this car besides the fact that it is an SUV, and so some people might be like, oh, it's a mom car, I don't want to drive a mom car. Dude, you can make these things look really good, but either way, I can understand where you're coming from. That's the reason why it's at 22. Barely missing out on the old top 20 locations is going to the BMW 740iL E38. These things are luxurious, very reliable for a BMW, especially what it comes with. And it looks good. They come with a 4.4-liter V8 making 282 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive, which is again kind of the reason why it's lower on the list. They also don't come with manuals, and so they're really not the best driver's car. They're big, heavy cars. They're not fast or anything like that, but they are very luxurious. And I know it sounds scary because it's a V8 powered BMW, but this was actually a really reliable V8 powered BMW. It's the same V8 they put in the 540i E39s, and those are really good motors. Breaking its way, did I sound like an A10 Warthog there? I sure hope I did. Breaking its way into the top 20 is going to the Subaru Forester SF. Kind of the same reason why the 4Runner is so low, why the Forester is so low. They ain't the biggest lookers, you know, people aren't going to be too excited to drive them. Some people call them grandma cars. They come with a 2.5-liter flat 4 making 165 horsepower, and they are all-wheel drive. I know you're probably scared about the whole head gasket issues things with Subarus. Only tends to happen really when you add boost to them, so just don't boost your Forester, and you should be relatively okay. In terms of reliability, they're pretty good. They're good, obviously, in terms of practicality. They got a ton of space. They're all high off the ground, although I know what you're going to do is slam it on the ground, but that's okay. They're a good car. They're just not the biggest looker. Coming in at 19th place, however, is kind of the opposite of the Forester. We're kind of going back and forth here because 19th place is Toyota Celica GT, 7th generation of this bad mother jammer. Now, car guys, big car guys, they don't really tend to like these cars, and that's because the performance really isn't there, and especially when you compare it up against the GT4 Celicas. But if you don't really care too much about the performance, it's still a relatively good option. They come with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making 180 horsepower, and they are front wheel drive. That's not bad. It's relatively safe, obviously. 180 horsepower front wheel drive, that's pretty good. But the problem is the reliability is questionable. It's not as bad as the 3000 GT, but there are people out there that do not like the 7th gen Celica's reliability, and so keep that in mind. 18th place is kind of similar to the last car, but just better, in my opinion. It's a Mitsubishi Eclipse GT 2G, the 2nd generation of the Mitsubishi Eclipse, my favorite generation of the Mitsubishi. These things are absolutely gorgeous. And they come with a 2-liter inline 4, making 140 horsepower, and they are front-wheel drive. Power numbers are low, front-wheel drive, 2-liter inline 4. Sorry, I got an itch on my back right now. Oh my god, I feel like I got rabies. It's performance-wise isn't incredible, and again, reliability-wise is definitely questionable, but this thing looks absolutely incredible, man. 17th place is just darn tootin' good vehicle, my friend. It's a I almost said 17 for some reason. It's the Chevy Silverado 1500 first generation, which I always think is incorrect. It says that on Wikipedia, but I don't think this is actually the first gen Silverado. You'll see which one's on the screen, though. It's that one. They come with a 5.3 liter V8, making 285 horsepower, and they are 4x4s. It's quite literally just incredible in every single way. The only problem is, for under 5K, it's going to be a sketchy purchase. There's going to be, might be some problems. It might have some rust, and at the same time, it's a truck, and this is a video about cars, and that's kind of the reason why I wanted to put it at 17th. 16th place is much more fun. It's the Lexus GS 300. These cars are starting to get more and more wanted. People are starting to like the GSs more and more as time goes on, and as they should. These are great cars. They're pretty much just a larger IS 300. They come with a 3-liter inline 6, making 225 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. Again, the rear-wheel drive part with 225 horsepower might scare some people away from it, but they are heavier cars. They're not meant to be like sports cars, and so they don't really utilize that power like a sports car will, so you should be able to keep it relatively tame. The only problem with this car is they are only available as automatics. They are luxury cars, so they're pretty heavy as well. And on top of that, they're starting to get to that point where they're sketchy to find under 5K. 15th place, it's not a list about cheap cars if you're not including at least one Honda Civic, and this one is the Honda Civic 6th generation, or the EK Civics, or the EM1 Civic. Oh my god, if you could find EM1 Civics under 5K nowadays, I would be broke. I would have $0 because I would have 15 EM1 Civics. Either way, the car comes with a 1.6 liter inline 4, making 125 horsepower, and they are front wheel drive. Horrible horsepower numbers out of the gate, but obviously we know Civics are lightweight cars that handle turbos and absolutely everything you could possibly throw at them very, very well. So it should be fine in order, if you want to make more power out of this in the future, that's fine. I don't recommend doing that with your only car though, but it is a Civic at the end of the day. They're reliable as hell, they're cheap as hell, they're easy to work on. They're quite literally one of the best first cars you could ask for. Coming in at 14th place, oh, the reason why, by the way, I didn't put the Civic higher, even though I just like glazed the crap out of that car, is because obviously they're not the most, you know, the bougie cars out there, if you will. But 14th place is a BMW 330ci E46. I love E46s, and the 330ci still being under 5K is mind-blowing to me. They come with a 3-liter inline 6, making 225 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. Same deal with the GS 300 before. While yes, rear-wheel drive with 225 horsepower may be sketchy for somebody that lives up north, down south you should be fine. And on top of that, you get a really, in my opinion, cool looking car. Reliability is questionable for sure, but everything else about it is pretty nice. Coming in at 13th place, however, is going to the Nissan 300ZX Z32. This one is straight up 100% probably not a good idea, but I love the car, so that's why I put it on here. Do I actually recommend this as like a first car though? Well, I don't. My lawyer advised me to be quiet because this car comes with a 3-liter V6 making 222 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive, and it is 100% a sports car. So that power is going to the rear wheels, and it's gonna get a little tail happy on you sometimes. On top of that, these cars are not the best if you don't know how to work on cars already, because they do tend to be difficult to work on. They're not the cheapest to repair, and they're not the most reliable cars out there, but they are cool as hell. Coming in at 12th place, on the other hand, is a car that's commonly misunderstood, I feel like, the Audi A4 B6. Now, there are a couple of A4s that you can find under 5K. You can find the B7s, the B5s, and the B6s, and you can even find some, like, early model B8s. I went with the B6 today. They come with a 1.8-liter turbocharged inline 4, making 170 horsepower, and they are all-wheel drive. This is the same motor that they put in the Volkswagen GTI Mark IVs, and those are incredible motors. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that car pretty soon. As a matter of fact, that's how much I love those motors. motors. They're reliable as hell. They're good for making power if you ever get bored of the car. And this is an all-wheel drive Audi as well, so it has the space that the Volkswagen doesn't have. Barely missing out on the old top 10 locations with the number 11 is the Hyundai Genesis Coupe BK1. Only if you can find a relatively low mileage example though. If you find one with over like 150,000 miles, I would say steer away from it. It's just not worth it. They come with a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 making 210 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. Again, rear-wheel drive being I feel like I'm just gonna sound like a broken record here, but maybe stay away from it. But the only problem with these cars, they look cool, they handle fun, they handle well, they're fast cars, they're great cars. The only problem is, of course, the Hyundai reliability. It's questionable at best. The Hyundai's like redesign has been controversial for sure. But speaking of very reliable cars, coming in at number 10 is the Lexus SC400. It's pretty much an LS400, but in my opinion, a little bit cooler looking. That's pretty much it. The car comes with a 4-liter V8 making 270 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. They are heavy cars, obviously. They're meant to be luxury cars, so keep that in mind. You're not going to be like winning races with this thing, and they are only available as automatics. And the reason why it's so low and I didn't put it higher, like, I love SCs, you guys know that, I'm a big SC fan, but the reason why I put it at the number 10 spot and not higher is, unfortunately, pretty much every single SC under 5K is going to be a ticking time bomb. So just be careful. If you go finding one, don't buy the first one you see. If you have money burning your hole in the pocket, just wait, be patient, and you can find yourself a good example of an SC400. Coming in at the number 9 spot, however, is going to a car I actually went and looked at out in Queens, New York, and oh my god, it was in the worst condition of all time. The BMW 328i E92. I always talk about the 335i E92s because they have the N54s in them, but the 328i's are the poor man's 335i's, and a little bit more reliable actually. They come with a 3-liter inline-6 making 230 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. If you don't care too much about getting insane power out of your E92, you just want a nice looking BMW, which is an E92 is a very nice looking car, then I would just recommend the 328i anyways. The 335i has way too many problems if you're not going to be using it for power potential. Like, there's really no point. If you're just going to keep it stock, just keep the 328i, make it look better, and you'll be fine. Alright, look at that, it's my car. This is the car I own, ladies and gentlemen. 8th place is going to the Acura Integra LS. I've owned this car for 2 years now, I want to say, and I was going to say I've loved every second of it, but I have not loved every second of it. My driver's side window hasn't worked the entire time I've owned it, and that drives me nuts. Either way, the car comes with a 1.8-liter inline-4 making 140 horsepower, and it is front-wheel drive. It's kind of like just a beefier Civic, if you really think about it. Just a better Civic, in my opinion. So yeah, that's why it got so much higher than it. It's got a better motor, it's got more horsepower out of the gate, just a better car. Coming in at the 7th place position, 7th place. I don't know why I just got so confused about that. It's the Ford Mustang GT New Edge. This is obviously a very enthusiast car. If you're not an enthusiast and you want a Mustang for some reason, spoiler alert, you might be an enthusiast in hiding, but just get the V6. But this car comes with a 4.6-liter V8 making 260 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. Probably one of the more harder cars to handle on this list, so keep that in mind. If you are skeptical about your driving capabilities, don't get yourself a Mustang. It's probably not the good idea. But if you can, and if you think you can handle it, they're very reliable, very cool looking, very fun cars to own. Haha, this is the part I told you about. 6th place is pretty much the hatchback version of the Audi we were just talking about, the Volkswagen GTI Mark IV. Like I said, it's pretty much the exact same thing as that car, except this one's front-wheel drive instead of all-wheel drive, and it's a lot lighter, which is why I put it so much higher. They come with a 1.8-liter turbo inline-4 making 170 horsepower, and they are front-wheel drive. Like I said, that's the same motor that was in the Audi before, but this car is significantly lighter. It still has the space because it's a hatchback, so it still has plenty of space, and in my opinion, it looks so much better as well, so that's the reason why I put it higher. But if you are in like a winter area, you might want to think about the Audi instead. Of course, you guys knew what was coming at eventually. 5th place is the Mazda Miata NA. This is for a specific type of person, obviously. We all know that. The car comes with a 1.8-liter inline-4 making 135 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. Horsepower is obviously not insane. You should know that at this point. Miatas are more meant for the whole handling aspect. If you're the type of person where you're not going to be comfortable in a car that doesn't have a lot of space, Miata is not the answer, okay? People always say Miata is always the answer. It's not the answer if you need space. If you know you're going to be driving your friends around or going to parties or driving in the winter, it's probably not the option for you, okay? That's why it's not number 1. Now, if you are that kind of person, the 4th place is the option for you. It's the Ford Ranger. Duh! It's an incredibly wonderful option for a first-time driver. It's an incredibly wonderful option for a 1 millionth time driver. They are just one of the better vehicles out there for the price that they're at. They come with a 4-liter V6 making 190 horsepower, and they are 4x4s. They're trucks. They're reliable trucks. They have tons of space, obviously, if you want to carry things around. The only thing that they don't really have is space inside of it. You're not going to be like carrying around 6-foot tall dudes, obviously. Like I have it. My best friend is 240 pounds, 6'1". The guy's of a unit. He's a beast. He would not like driving in the back of a Ford Ranger. Is probably the better option if you're a new time driver than the SC400 because it's a Lexus LS400. It's pretty much the same car, but this time it has 4 doors, and in my opinion, it's significantly easier to find a clean example of one of these for under 5K than it is to find an SC400, so I would recommend going with it. On top of that, they didn't try and go over the top with all the electronics, which they did with the SC400, and so you'll probably have better luck with the wiring and stuff. The car comes with a 4-liter V8 making 270 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. It's the same exact car, like I said, as the SC400, just in my opinion, a lot more of a safe option for a new time driver. Second place, you guys, I mean, if you know my channel, if you have ever even heard the name Mark before, whether that's Mark Wahlberg or Mark Roden, you knew it was going to be here. It's the Acura TL 3rd generation. I love these freaking cars. They come with a 3.2-liter V6 making 258 horsepower, and they are front-wheel drive. It's a Honda motor. Yes, it's a V6 Honda motor, but it's still a Honda motor, so it still has the reliability of a Honda motor. But this time it has the power out of the gate, so you don't have to add the power like you do with Civics and Integras and stuff like that. It already has 258 horsepower. On top of that, it's luxurious compared to regular Hondas. It looks better, in my opinion. It has nice amounts of space. Like, that's the one thing I don't like about my Integra is I'm a 6-foot tall dude. It's sitting in the Integra sometimes. It's if you feel a little cramped. The TL doesn't feel that way. It's just an incredible option all around. Honorable mention, because I wanted to mention it, but I knew that my channel would get mad at me if I put it on like the actual list. So it's the Honda Odyssey 2nd generation. They come with a 3.5-liter V6 making 244 horsepower, and they are front-wheel drive. Yes, it's a minivan. Yes, I'm recommending a minivan as a first-time driver, even if you are a car guy. I think people are massively sleeping on like the social aspect of having a car with space. Dude, I don't drink, so whenever I like go to bars or go to parties and stuff, I'm always a designated driver, and I cannot tell you the amount of times I've thought to myself, I would love to have a minivan, because it's like driving your boys around in a minivan would be freaking awesome. But first place, in my opinion, the best car for a first-time driver in 2025, for less than $5,000 at least, is the Infiniti G35 Coupe for multiple reasons. First off is the engine. It comes with a 3.5-liter V6 making 306 horsepower, and it's rear-wheel drive. That's enough power to the point where you're not going to get bored of it quickly, but it's also going to like spark your interest of cars, and you're going to be able to like relatively push it to its limits and still have fun with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's still going to be a car that you're going to have to learn how to drive well on, but it's not too much to the point where you're going to wreck on it. Yes, it's still rear-wheel drive, so keep that in mind if you do live up north. Maybe potentially think about buying a G35 sedan that has the all-wheel drive, the G37 or G35Xs. Maybe think about one of those instead. But the reliability is really great. Don't listen to what everybody else online says about VQs. They just hate them for some reason. They don't like the sound of them and they don't like the people that own them. But the VQ is a very reliable motor. In my opinion, they look incredible. You're going to get a lot of, you know, attention if that's what you're looking for in high school with your G35 coupes. It has tons of aftermarket support. It's relatively cheap, easy to work on. Everything about the G35 coupe, in my opinion, scratches the itch for a first-time driver. It has a manual, like, it's just great. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the top 25 best first cars for less than $5,000 in 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below. Sorry that my heater was on the entire video. If I waited to turn that to wait for that heater to turn off, I would be sitting here for hours. So sorry about that, but it's gonna have to stay on, unfortunately. I apologize, but hope you guys enjoyed either way. If you think I made any mistakes, or if you think there's any cars that I missed that I should have put on the list, let me know. There's obviously a ton of cars that you could use as a first car: Camrys, Corollas, CRVs, freaking RAV4s, for other 4Runners that I didn't include, Pathfinders, Ford F-150s, Dodge Rams. There's tons of cars that you could think of buying and still make them cool as well as a first car. But these are the ones that I decided to go with today, so I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. And I am getting so annoyed because I feel like I wanted to tell you guys something and now I can't remember it. It happens all the time. I've been like stressed out for the past like year of my life, dude. I've been just like constantly stressed 24/7, and before, the side effects was my stomach would hurt all the time. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. My stomach feels fine now all the time, but now the problem is I forget everything. Like, I'll think of something and then it immediately leaves my head and I'm like, what was I just thinking about? I feel like I have dementia and it drives me absolutely insane. I'm working on it though. 2025, we're coming back. I'm not gonna have this anymore. It freaking drives me nuts. I gotta get rid of it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I know that was random and really personal, but thank you so much. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.